All right, last on the agenda is Representative Berg with 2170. I will move to re-refer House File 2170 to the State and Local Government Finance and Policy Committee. Representative Berg, I understand you have an author's amendment, so I will move the A23-0039 for adoption to get the bill in the shape the author wants it. Did you want to explain the amendment at all, or?
No.
Madam Chair, no, I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay. Oh, I just didn't look at it, so sorry. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails. All right, Representative Berg, please present your bill as amended. We're going to give each of the testifiers about 2 minutes per person because we have quite a few on here. And so I will remind folks when the time is up. So Representative Berg, go ahead and present your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chairs and members. I'm really excited to present this bill and the possibilities of its long-term vision and Minnesota's opportunity to be one of the leaders in this space. Buy Clean is a pretty simple concept. It says the products and materials that are used for public projects like infrastructure improvement should be the cleanest and most sustainable available. When we build a bridge or invest in a public building, Buy Clean will help ensure that taxpayer dollars...
Can you just back away from the
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So we are at spending taxpayer dollars responsibly on materials, including concrete, structural steel, and asphalt that are manufactured in a cleaner, more efficient, and environmentally friendly manner. This reduces climate pollution and negative health impacts while supporting good-paying jobs in Minnesota and in our nation. This bill begins a process to reduce the embedded carbon and environmental footprint in our construction materials in a phased, incremental manner. First, we create a task force led by the Department of Administration that includes stakeholders representing materials manufacturers, the construction industry, labor, environmental organizations, and state agencies. The task force will examine various construction materials, work with product manufacturers, begin to collect data, and start the process of creating environmental product declarations, referred to as EPDs, for a variety of specific construction materials. Eventually, we will have a pilot project, and then down the line, we'll set maximum numeric values on a product-by-product basis that will be included in bid specifications included in state construction products. The task force and stakeholders throughout the industry will play a critical role in shaping how this rolls out. As you will hear, the industry is already moving in this direction. Manufacturers are beginning to create environmental product declarations already. The goal of this bill is to create a process to move this work forward in a coordinated way with all stakeholders involved. One other point that is important to make: America makes cleaner products than those that come from our foreign competitors. This bill is intended to make sure that we're supporting Minnesota industries, especially companies in the cement, steel, and asphalt manufacturing. I will now yield my time to my testifiers.
On our list, we have John Abergast, Margaret Levin, and Mr. Mark Blitzner. If you guys would like to first up, state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
John Arbogast. I'm a District 11 staff rep with United Steelworkers. I am out of the Eveleth office in northern Minnesota. What my functions are is I represent the steelworkers in 5 out of the 6 mines in northern Minnesota. You're asking me to be brief. I interned legislatively under Tommy Rukavina and David Tomasoni, so this is a huge ask. But anyway, I'm here to testify in support of this bill. The steel companies that our members work for in northern Minnesota have committed towards reducing their carbon footprint. We support them with that. As these projects move forward, the infrastructure bill, moving towards a greener economy, we believe that the steel, the raw materials being used in these government projects should be made in America. They should not come from foreign countries that have no environmental standards and use child labor. So if we're going to spend government dollars, they should be used in this country and in Minnesota. That's as brief as I can get.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Next up, Margaret Levin. Welcome to the committee. State your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Margaret Levin. I'm the State Director for the Sierra Club North Star chapter. The Sierra Club is the nation's oldest and largest grassroots environmental organization. We represent over 50,000 members and supporters here in Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to express our support for the Buy Clean and Buy Fair Minnesota Act. State level action is crucial to reduce carbon emissions and avoid the worst effects of climate change. Along the way, we need to build a strong clean energy economy, improve our community's health, and ensure good family supporting jobs. Buildings are a major source of climate pollution, and the issue of emissions that are embodied throughout the life cycle of building materials has emerged as a really important concern, with their manufacture accounting for 11% of total carbon emissions globally. This bill takes an important step towards addressing that problem. The proposed pilot will explore a Minnesota-specific approach to reducing climate emissions in these materials that we need to update our buildings and infrastructure. And the bill will help to support manufacturers who are using cleaner and greener processes and technologies and encourage more manufacturers to do so. We hope it will lead to using our state's considerable purchasing power to buy clean, using taxpayer dollars to reduce climate change and support a strong Minnesota workforce. So we're pleased to join labor, business, and environmental organizations in supporting the bill and urge your support.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Mark Blitzner? Bintzler. Man, I am so bad at this. Welcome to the committee. If you could just state your name for the record correctly and proceed with your
Madam
testimony.
Chair, my name is Mark Bintzler. I'm with Wholesome Incorporated. Wholesome is one of the largest cement and construction materials companies in the world. We are in 70 different countries throughout the world and have 70,000 employees. Locally, however, we supply cement, Portland cement out of a terminal in South St. Paul, Minnesota. We have ready-mix concrete and aggregates out of an office in Eagan, Minnesota, and we have the similar products up in an office in Moorhead, Minnesota. Wholesome, as some of you may know, was one of the first major construction company or construction material supplier company that took the net zero pledge. We're working very hard to reduce our carbon footprint. By 2050, we're hoping to be net zero. We have intermediate targets. We supply what we call Eco-Planet cements, which has a lower carbon, lower CO2 cement. And we also have Eco-Pack concrete mixtures that are available for use in construction. We support the bill. Some of the points we support are the advisory committee. Having the industry involved in the process, I think, is very important to make it work in the long term. We also are in support of the Type 3 environmental product declarations. Wholesome has all our cement plants in the U.S. have an EPD available, and in Minnesota we can generate an EPD for any of our concrete mixtures as of today. We also are in support of the grant program that's part of this bill, so that other companies that can also develop EPDs, so the whole industry can go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have public testimony from Mr. Sexton, if you'd like to come down, followed by John Cunningham. Will be on deck. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Sexton. State your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, for the record, my name is Tim Sexton, and I serve as an Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Firstly, I want to say that MnDOT supports the goals of this legislation, and we are already working to reduce the impacts of construction projects on the environment and do our part to reduce the climate impacts of transportation. We've met with proponents of the bill, and they've included some of the department's feedback into the legislation. We sincerely appreciate that. Saying that, we do have maybe 3 examples of process questions that are still out there around modifications to the bid process. 1, the source of materials at the time of bid may not be the same as the available source of materials at the time of construction. For example, flooding in North Dakota halted the transport of Coal Creek fly ash to a recent paving project. Changes to the mix design that potentially increase the greenhouse gas emissions of the concrete were made to keep the project on schedule. Additionally, most MnDOT contracts are awarded on a low bid basis. For design build projects, we could award higher scores to proposals whose products have a global warming potential below the maximum acceptable level. However, it's unclear how this requirement would be implemented for low bid contracts. Finally, we'd encourage flexibility in the beginning around timing and project size. In the future, we believe this will become standard operating procedure for all MnDOT projects. But starting with larger projects could be helpful for supporting learning on how this would be implemented. For example, there may be an opportunity to use prices and incentives to support a shift towards lower greenhouse gas materials, and these may be applied to as placed products rather than during procurement, and prices and material availability may change between when the project is bid and when construction occurs. And actually, finally, MnDOT suggests having the task force submit an interim report to the legislature by February 1st, 2024, that includes recommendations for process, timing, global warming potential for individual projects in case we run into any significant issues as we're implementing this legislation. Madam Chair, again, we support the goals of this legislation. We look forward to continuing to work with Representative Berg and other stakeholders as the legislation moves forward.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mr. Cunningham, followed by Mr. Zeller, and then Brian McDaniel. You are on deck too. Welcome to the committee. If you could state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm John Cunningham with the Aggregate and Ready Mix Association of Minnesota, also known as ARM of Minnesota. ARM represents the producers of the majority of the materials that this bill would cover. That includes rock, sand, stone, and ready-mixed concrete. I've submitted written comments. You have those in your packet. I'm just going to touch on a couple of highlights within that. In the summer of 2018, we proposed a study with MnDOT to develop a process for inclusion of EPDs in the bidding process. So we are very supportive of the goals of this proposed bill and have been working on that since 2018 and formally since beginning this study with MnDOT. There are some things that Tim just mentioned too that I think we can come up with answers for. We've already had some discussions about that. We would encourage you to allow us to continue to work through that process with MnDOT and give you a process that will lead the nation. We don't think that anybody yet has found a good way to include those EPDs in the bidding process because it is a low bid scenario. We think the key lies in the incentives that Tim mentioned because that does take into account then the end product rather than the intended product at the time of bidding. So we'd like to be able to continue to work through that and would encourage you to do that. And I thank Representative Berg for scheduling a meeting with us next week to talk in more detail about all of these suggestions that we submitted to you in my written testimony. And one other thing that I would encourage you, Madam Chair, and for the committee to consider is that there seems to be one product that is missing from this bill, and that's wood or timber. And that construction, I think, that construction material, I think, needs to be included because of some of the comments that we had in the earlier testimony regarding resilience. Those products, wood and timber products, are used in construction and more so in multi-story construction. And that is concerning if we're not going to keep an eye on resilience. And that also goes towards the use of EPDs and the life cycle assessment that you mentioned also, Madam Chair, about those materials. So I thank you for the time today to address the committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mr. Matt Zeller. You can come down, state your name for the record. Oh, there's. And then after Mr. McDaniel will be Laura Ziegler. Welcome to the committee. If you could just state your name for the record and briefly give us your testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Zeller. I'm the Executive Director of the Concrete Paving Association of Minnesota. We represent the vast majority of the folks who do all the concrete paving around the state. Again, I really want to applaud the efforts of this bill and, in general, support the spirit of where it's going. Almost all the industries, as you've heard and will continue to hear, support this. We know we need to do better. We all need to do better. The efforts being taken around the state, around the country, they're already underway. So again, this is it's a good thing, and EPDs is a good start. But again, EPDs is more of a shot in time. It's about what energy is used to create that product. You've mentioned several times, and it's even in the legislation, life cycle. They're different. They're a little different. So I think if we really want to look at the long-term benefits, and Mr. Cunningham mentioned timber. I mean, if you look at a building, it could be built out of timber, it could be built out of steel, it could be built out of concrete. They're all going to have different EPDs to build that, but over the life of that building, how are things going to be affected? The energy used for heating, for cooling. So I think, again, life cycle is a great process to get into it. EPDs is a good start. So again, I think, we need to continue on this to get better. So again, we believe this legislation, should focus on those last couple of paragraphs, 8 and 9, for the task force and the report. Because again, everybody's already underway. I know MnDOT's already got, I think, a couple of different federal grants, 200,000 and 300,000 to get into the EPDs. But then what? What should we do with that? And I think that's what that task force would be for, to make some recommendations of how to move forward. Let's use the experts that we have. I know nationally, the asphalt industry, NAPA, has people working on this. NRMCA, the National Ready Mix Association, our national group, ACPA, even MIT has some really good information. So with that, thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. McDaniels, and then Ms. Ziegler, and then we will move on to member discussions. And we do have a real hard stop at 10 because of session, so thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Brian McDaniel, and I'm here today representing Minnesota Asphalt Pavement Association. MAP is a trade association that represents asphalt pavers and producers in the state who pave things from driveways to interstates. For several years now, our industry has discussed the arrival of environmental product declarations and the move towards a green procurement. As you might imagine, different companies are in varying stages of readiness for these changes. On the whole, the asphalt industry has evolved over the years to reduce its environmental footprint. We have done this by being the #1 most recycled material in the nation, leading as the smoothest pavement option, resulting in better fuel efficiency for Minnesotans, improving production efficiencies at our plants by incorporating new technologies, and by leading the nation with long-lasting perpetual pavement roadways. Although we have a few questions on the details of the bill, we appreciate the approach taken with a staggered and delayed implementation, a pilot program, and a collaborative process that includes input from all stakeholders. If we're going to go down this road, pun absolutely intended, a process that is based on informed decision-making and reliance on good science and engineering is what should be followed. The science is not clear on how best to achieve these goals, but the asphalt industry and MAPA appreciate the opportunities this bill and Representative Berg are providing to be part of the discussion on how to get there. We'd like to thank the Blue-Green Alliance for being open to changes to allow for greater industry participation, and we will continue to work with them on this bill as it moves through the process. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ziegler. Welcome to the committee. State your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Laura Ziegler with Associated General Contractors of Minnesota. We're a statewide trade association representing both commercial builders as well as transportation contractors. We understand the overall goal of this legislation to use products and materials that are used for public projects like infrastructure improvements are the cleanest and most sustainable available. I think a lot of the previous testifiers touched on my points. So to get to a couple maybe that you haven't heard, we're going to defer to a number of our partner associations on the sourcing and availability issues. The bulk of our questions are going to reside around that procurement process, and I think we're going to talk about that perhaps at the bill's next stop in committee. So I would also ask the legislature and our public partners to consider the impacts of the total development costs. For example, materials that are thought of as cleaner may have supply chain or availability concerns that would result in longer shipping distances and associated emissions. We also want to consider the impact on small and emerging businesses and recognize that these firms may have similar concerns as to their assets, equipments, and ability to participate in a changing market. So all programs should ensure that women, minority-owned, and/or small businesses have the ability to compete for work on these infrastructure projects. We are very supportive of the creation of a task force to engage with industry partners and owner groups to better understand how this bill, other government policies, supply chain realities, et cetera, will impact projects, costs, equipment, materials. We'll continue the conversation with the representatives to achieve the overall goals of this bill. Thank you for your time. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. We will move to member questions. Representative Hornstein.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a big thank you to Representative Berg and Blue Green Alliance, Steelworkers, Sierra Club. I first got involved in this about 6-7 years ago. I was leafing through the Steelworkers newsletter and learned about a similar effort in California. And I couldn't believe that you had the trades and the Steelworkers and Sierra Club. I think even 350.org was involved there. And this is a fascinating and really critical and timely bill. And I think just the coalitions that have come together around this, I think show the future of how we can come together on this set of issues. And so I want to thank you and thank all of the people that testified and look forward to seeing this bill come to fruition this year. And really honored to co-author it with you, Representative. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the bill author as well on this bill. It's exciting to see and to hear from the testifiers today over the way that Minnesota is leading in this regard and the opportunity that we have to expand economic prosperity in our state with the industries that already exist here in Minnesota and how our legislation can benefit that. This bill, I know it's a lot. It's a lot of new language. It's a new process and several steps to the process. And I would just encourage, we're at March 1st right now. We do have committee deadlines coming up, and I fully recognize that. But we want to do best by our industries, our workers, and help us get to a place where we're really putting Minnesota and set up very well. And I just encourage, I know that our side of the aisle has a lot of questions in this regard. We're under a little bit of time constraints, and I would just encourage the chair, if we could, to take this up again after committee deadlines where it can have more full discussion amongst members of the committee. And I believe that the author of the bill is working with the coalition, with the stakeholders, and continued work on that, I think, will continue to enhance this bill. And I just wanted to share that with the amount of time that we have remaining.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can kind of look at taking deep dives into this after deadline. Representative Anderson.
Thanks. I'll be quick, Madam Chair. Thank you. Yeah, in the discussion with the cement folks, my immediate question was the future of fly ash being used in cement, and if there could be worked into the bill some kind of a credit system where if you had to use fly ash, you'd have to offset that or buy a credit or something. But is that something you're looking at? And what's the future of fly ash with this bill?
Representative Berg.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative. So we are in continued conversations with nearly everyone that has come together on this bill, very open to suggestions and amendments, and we'll be doing so in further stops. But if you'd like our testifier to answer that, I'm sure we could.
Would we be able to answer that one offline? Representative Anderson? Okay, thank you. Representative Igo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will also be brief because a lot of the testifiers hit on everything. Thank you, Representative Berg, for working on this bill. This is a bill that's going to make Minnesota Iron Range steel way more effective here and being used. We're going to stop using that Chinese steel because, Mr. Arbogast, it is not good, right? Thank you. So this is good. The one thing that I wish, if we're going to start looking into this stuff, there's plenty of other things we need to look into on this list. So we're starting with our steel and our concrete, but I think there's plenty of other things we need to be looking into as well. I look forward to having those conversations with you and look forward to see how this bill progresses.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. So, members, I will renew my motion that House File 2170, man, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know like the path that this bill has to take and how many committees it needs to go to?
Yep, so it's going to State Gov and then Climate and then Ways. So there'll be opportunities to hear it in other committees as well. So
Can we get a commitment from you that we can see this after the committee
I
deadlines?
can't guarantee it just because availability of rooms and things like that, but I think, it's definitely one that we are going to look into. I think this is really prime for like infrastructure coordinator, IIJ. I mean, with all of the stuff coming down the pike with that, we're going to see where we're going to need to be on these procurements and stuff. So
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you do have interest personally in seeing
absolutely,
this.
yeah, absolutely.
All right,
So,
very good.
all right,
Madam Chair, quickly.
Representative Berg.
President Biden at the federal level with stated goal of spurring the development of low carbon construction materials made in America while supporting good paying jobs. So there is a federal executive order on buy clean standards.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will renew my motion to re-refer House File 2170 as amended to State and Local Government Finance and Policy Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Motion prevails.